guys, today I'm going to do a review on my SawStop contractor saw. I've had this saw for a little over a year now. I bought it back in August of 2020. It is now January of 2021. I'm going to share my thoughts on this saw, and I'm going to answer the question, is this worth the $2,000 price tag that it is? So in this reviews, I will be going over the saw itself, just a little overview of the saw. I'm going to be going over my pros, and I'm going to be going over my cons. Let's get to it. So let's do a little overview of the saw. This is a contractor style saw, meaning the trunnions and whatever mechanism that holds the blade is mounted to the tabletop. It is not mounted to the base, unlike a cabinet saw, which all that stuff is mounted directly to the base and the top is a floating tabletop. First you got the power switch, which is a SawStop power switch. This is pretty recognizable for a SawStop power switch. All the SawStop power switches besides the job site saw are made like this. The base model of this saw includes standard steel wings, which are just sheet metal, and it includes an aluminum fence. I bought this saw with the upgraded 36-inch T-Glide style fence. Now it does have a 1.75 horsepower motor, and just like on a contractor saw, it hangs out the back and it is hanging by the belt. It includes an L-frame stand, which is really strong, and it includes dust collection right underneath. It has your standard vertical slide system to raise and lower the blade, just like any job site saw would. And last but not least, it has a quick change riving knife blade guard feature, a 10-inch blade, and of course, the patented SawStop brake. So now I'm going to go over some pros of this saw. My first pro has got to be the fence. This is the most accurate saw I have ever used. It's got this really nice, insanely heavy steel fence that only locks on the front. Now that's important so that way it stays square to the blade. Traditional saws will have the fence lock on the front and on the back of the table, and that can cause the fence to not be parallel with the blade. This fence is deadly accurate, and the tape measure on the rails are really accurate too. I can get this down to a 64th of an inch. This is a really accurate saw. My second pro is actually two things that work together on this saw. The first being the insert plate. This is the nicest insert plate I have ever used. It's really nice, it's really stiff, and you can really micro adjust it so it's perfectly flat with the table. It has this locking mechanism that keeps the insert plate locked down against the table so it's not going to come up on you. Super easy to remove, and super easy to put back. The second part of this is the riving knife blade guard feature that's quick change. It's got this really big steel toy-like lever, super easy to undo. It never gets caked with sawdust, and it allows you to easily remove your riving knife and insert your blade guard. And it's as quick as that. I guess the third pro would be the accuracy of this saw. This saw has never gone out of square since the day I bought it. I have never had to once adjust this saw. In fact, I forgot how to adjust it because this saw has never actually gone out of square. This is super easy to adjust if I ever have to. It's got these big screws on either side and on the bottom of the saw to adjust it. And this thing is deadly accurate. I have used this and gotten really nice results. I guess the fourth thing would be the motor. This thing is really quiet, which makes it super pleasant on my ears, and it's super easy to use. It also has some nice indicator lights to let you know when the blade stops, as well as when the SawStop is ready to use. Oh, and by the way, if you have a dust collection remote like this, just use some double-sided tape and stick it onto your saw, and it's super easy. When you go to turn on the saw, you can turn on the dust collector right there. And I guess finally, the most important feature for some people, including me, is the braking feature of the SawStop. And that is what SawStop is known for, their braking feature. If you run any part of your finger or any body part into the saw blade, if it comes into contact, that brake will slam upon the blade, causing the blade to stop and drop below the table, in a matter of milliseconds, probably even less than that. It is super fast. You can see a ton of videos on YouTube where they do it with a hot dog. Some people have done it with their fingers. This is one of the biggest safety features on this saw, and it is one of the safest saws in my opinion. Now with my first and biggest con, we'll have to look down. That is the number one issue that I have with this saw, is the dust collection. No matter what dust collector I have, I've tried a more powerful one on this thing, it still doesn't work. There's a bunch of dust that always goes on the floor. And what's even worse is on the inside of the saw, I almost always have to clean it out because it gets caked with dust. And this can kind of be an issue for me, because sometimes the mechanism that raises and lowers the blade will get caked up with dust so much that you hear that, but also it will get caked so much that the blade won't go down all the way. It's sticking up about an 1/8 inch past the surface. So I'd have to get under there and dig out whatever cramped sawdust has been compressed down in there over the many months and try and dig that out in order for the blade to go down all the way properly. It also makes raising the blade a little bit harder as well. Now the second issue is it's a contractor saw, and that means the motor hangs on the belt and it hangs off the back of the saw. It's just got a hinge and it mainly hangs on the belt, but that means that whenever the belt is moving, it's vibrating. And to show you how much it's vibrating, especially through these steel wings, I'm going to turn on the saw and you can see how much vibration it has. Now these are minor issues that personally bug me, but it's not a big issue and I can get over it pretty easily, but these are just some minor things. When you start up the saw stop, you usually have to wait about 10 to 15 seconds for this red light to stop blinking, and that's just a safety check to reboot the computer and make sure that it's actually working properly. Another fact is that it's a 1 3/4 horsepower and it runs on 110 volt. This could be good for a lot of people because if it runs on 110 volt, you can be just fine. You can just plug this into a standard house outlet. This doesn't draw much current at all, but the problem is the motor, I just find, is not really all that powerful enough when I'm resawing through hardwoods, which you shouldn't really do on a table saw. You should do that more on a bandsaw, but I've always had bad luck doing it on the bandsaw, and I prefer to do it on the table saw. Yes, I could put a finer blade in this thing, but this is the blade I've been using for many months in it, and this is a pretty sharp blade that's on here. And finally, you can't run a dado stack without having to buy another separate accessory. You have to buy a dado stack cartridge, a dado stack brake cartridge, to replace the regular one, because the regular one is meant for a 10-inch diameter blade, while a dado stack is usually an 8-inch diameter. For that, you need to have a larger brake that's also thicker but also a lot taller for a dado stack. And I just think they should have provided this with the saw, but they don't, and this is like a whole $100 accessory. Now I guess most people don't use a dado stack, so it's not really a big deal, but for those who do, it makes life a whole lot faster, but at the same time it's frustrating having to buy a whole other accessory for a saw stop. But it's not a big issue, I just wish they could have provided this with a saw. Now I'll answer the question, is it worth the $2,000 price tag? In my opinion, yes, it is. It's got really high quality components, a super flat cast iron top. If you upgrade the fence, you get a really nice, truly square fence, but I'm pretty sure the one that comes with it works alright. You've got a bunch of safety built in, including the one for your fingers, and considering the cost of your fingers, I'd say that is a safety feature that is well worth it. And it is just a really accurate, high quality saw to use. even if it didn't have the saw stop feature, I would still price this at over $1,000. It is a really high quality saw. The saw stop contractor saw will work for most people. It will work for pretty much all hobby woodworkers or weekend warriors that need a really good high quality saw that's accurate, that they can use on the weekends just to do hobbies and projects and stuff. This saw is perfect for that. However, I use my saw pretty much daily, and if I'm being honest, for me, I would rather go with a cabinet saw. There's no vibration because all the mechanisms and stuff are not mounted to the top, they're mounted to the base. The dust collection is enclosed in the base, so you don't have anything coming out the front and out the bottom. And the dust collection works really well. It's also way more powerful to get a cabinet saw than a contractor saw. And speaking of which, I just bought a SawStop 3 horsepower professional cabinet saw used for a really good price. I bought it for $3 grand. Comes with the saw, a dust collector, a whole bunch of accessories, and I'd say it was worth it. Now, for real, the price on one of these SawStops would be around $3,400 for a cabinet saw for the 3 horsepower model. And I still say that's worth it if you're going to be using the saw on a daily basis and you need that power. As you can see, it has an enclosed cabinet for all the dust to go through. Everything is mounted to the base. This thing has a piston, like a gas-assisted, sort of gas piston blade raising and lowering, which doesn't get caked in sawdust, so it's really, really smooth. It's got full cast iron tabletop rather than the steel extensions. On mine, it came with an overhead dust collection guard, which I might use, I might not. I think I'll try it out for a while. And it comes with a beefy 3 horsepower motor that does not hang out the back. Now yes, I know SawStop does make a 1.75 horsepower cabinet saw. That's a little under this. I think it's around like $2,500 or so. I haven't checked the price on it recently. And for a hobby woodworker that wants to do this pretty much daily or something, that would be a good saw to get into because it will run on 110 volt. It just won't have the power that this saw does. So it's basically like a contractor saw with like the same contractor saw motor, but in a cabinet saw's body. And that would be worth it for a lot of people. Unfortunately, because this is a 3 horsepower saw, that does mean it runs on 220 volt, which I will get up in the shop eventually, and once I do, this will become my main saw. And I'm so excited to use this thing. It already feels 10 times better than the one I have. I'm not saying the other one's bad. I'm just saying you get what you pay for. This is a really nice saw. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I've been wanting to make one of these reviews for a while, and now that I've had a chance to use this SawStop for a while, I've decided, alright, I'll make a review on it, give you my thoughts on it. If you have a SawStop contractor saw, let me know what's your experience with it. If you don't have one, I hope this review was helpful. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. The number one thing you can do to support this channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. That would really help the channel, as well as you can also share this video to other people who are looking into getting a SawStop if you'd like. And I'm also more active on Instagram if you want to follow me over there. I've got more stuff behind the scenes, including something that I haven't shared on YouTube yet, but I've been showing to my Instagram followers. So go follow me there if you want some behind the scenes on what's going on in these videos. Alright, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.